above 500. And then on Wednesday, the 28th, in the ninth inning, Bo Bichette stepped up as a pinch hitter for Michael Stefanik. Remember him? And hit a two-run home run in the ninth inning out to left in Texas. And what that did is it ensured a series win for the Blue Jays in which they scored only 4 runs, but they came home, and the first team they saw after that was the Athletics, and they promptly swept them. And from that moment on, they put together, as you see at the bottom of the screen, a 68-40 record onward to a division title. And so many people, including John Schneider today, point to that moment as the turning point. Do you agree with that?
I feel like the offense really took off there, and the offense taking off for me for this team, it was the big difference. The starting rotation, they did their thing this year. They dealt with the early injury to Max Scherzer and the early struggles and the injury eventually. Bowden Francis trying to fill in spots like that, not easy. The bullpen up and down, on and off. But more so than anything, this lineup that was the lineup that finished very well as across Major League Baseball, it took a while. It took the month of April and May. And I think part of that is because you had some veteran players coming back off of down years. George Springer, Alejandro Kirk, and Bo Bichette, all coming off down years, and they were key contributors to this team. They needed to be good offensively. To think all 3 of them were going to come back and do what they did this year offensively, that's a big part of it. So I think you have that, and then you've also got a lot of young players, a lot of the part-time or role players like the Clements and Lucases, and the list goes on and on. But you've got to we've heard a lot of the words identity, we've heard selfless, we've heard a lot of the common words coming from John Schneider and from that clubhouse and from the players, and I think identity is another one. And a lot of those guys had to buy in, and buy-in is believing in what we're doing here. The coaches getting players to buy in. So you've got veterans that need to buy in. You've got young role-type players that need to buy in to get regular playing time, to get everybody to buy into the hitting philosophy of David Popkins and his staff. That, to me, is probably the most remarkable thing. But I agree 100% with that home run by Bo Bichette, because it just seemed like that was the time it all started coming together. Once the offense came together, this team took off.
And they were fun to watch. There were a lot of happy people who follow this around the rest of baseball, given that every game started at the same time. And there was a bit of scoreboard watching in New York, because if the Yankees lost, it didn't matter what happened here at the Rogers Center. But it turned out it really mattered, because Ben Rice got them off to a good start with his 25th of the year. The Orioles come back. Westberg hits number 17 in the 4th off Luis Gil. And then the next batter is Gunnar Henderson. He's out of the ballpark with a 17th. At that moment, it was Baltimore 2, New York 1. But Giancarlo Stanton drops a single and left in the bottom of the inning. That cashes Judge. It's a 2-2 ball game. Stayed that way until Rice pounds this one to left. His second of the game turns out to be the game winner. So the Yankees did win their final game of the year. They did sweep Baltimore. So the Blue Jays needed to do exactly what they did, as it turns out. Now, the Tigers were in the postseason. There was a chance they could win the division, but it needed to start with a win in Boston. David Hamilton, who doesn't hit many, ties the ball game at 3 with his 6th of the year. And a couple of batters later, Jarren Duran, who came to Toronto and didn't do much over 3 games, does a lot here with the double that caps a 3-run inning. So Boston defeats Detroit, and that cemented Cleveland's situation as they managed to win the division without actually having to win this game. But here's what happened there. As Rowdy Tellez in the 10th inning, this game went to extras. Rowdy Tellez gives the Rangers a huge lead, but look at Brian Rocchio, who hits this off the foul pole, and that's the ball game in the bottom of the 10th as they celebrate in Cleveland. This is a comeback of historic proportions. Not this game, what the Cleveland Guardians have accomplished late in the season, given how far back they were in the American League Central. It's stunning that the Tigers ended up finishing second, Joe.
To the second, but luckily they even snuck into the playoffs, though, thanks to what the Houston Astros were not able to do. What a division that is, and the Cleveland Guardians enter the playoffs red hot.
So what does this all look like? Well, first, we're going to see the Red Sox at Yankee Stadium, and we'll also see the Tigers going to Cleveland to play a wild card series there. And the winner of the Boston-New York series comes to Toronto. Winner of the Detroit-Cleveland series ends up going to Seattle to take on the Mariners, who have had one heck of a year.